Have you ever been stuck just really searching for that one perfect answer to something super complex, that single key to unlock it all? Well, today we're diving into a story where exactly that kind of question asked centuries ago led to this incredibly rich set of answers. And they all point towards, well, the same ultimate goal. Our source for this deep dive is an ancient Buddhist text, the Aṭṭhakanāgarasuttaṃ. It's basically a record of this amazing conversation between a really prominent lay follower and one of the Buddha's main disciples. So, our mission today is to kind of trace the journey of this seeker, lay follower, the Shama of Ahakanagara, and unpack the frankly surprising answers he got from Venerable Ananda about liberation.
Yeah, just to set the scene a bit more, Dashama had finished up some business in Paliputta, and then he made a special trip. He went specifically to Vivagamka near Vesali because he knew Venerable Ananda was staying there. This wasn't just like a casual visit. The effort involved really shows how important this meeting and the question he had was to him.
Okay, right. Let's get into it then. What was this burning question? The one that made him travel like that? The Dasme basically gets right to the point with Venerable Ananda. He asks, look, is there one single teaching? The Pali is ekathamo, just one thing, taught by the fully enlightened Buddha, that if a monk practices it diligently, it leads to, well, everything, like liberating the unliberated mind, completely destroying those stubborn defilements, and reaching that ultimate freedom, that sort of supreme security from bondage, all from one teaching.
It's a huge question, isn't it? The scope of it. He's not just asking for a path, but one single path, ekatamo, that achieves these, monumental results. And the terms he uses are key. Unliberated mind, that's the mind caught in suffering, tangled up in what the texts call asava, these defilements or outflows like sensual craving, the desire to exist, ignorance, and supreme security from bondage, yoga kama. That's a well-known term for nirvana, ultimate freedom. So he's asking for the master key, essentially.
And Ananda's response is just immediate. No hesitation. Yes, lay follower, there is such a single teaching. That's pretty powerful. It sets you up expecting one specific answer, right?
Exactly. It creates this expectation. But then, and this is the brilliant part, he doesn't give just one method. He lays out 11 different paths. But the common thread, the thing that makes each of them qualify as that single teaching, is this core insight you have to apply. It's the understanding that whatever is conditioned and volitionally produced is impermanent, subject to cessation. That insight is the engine driving liberation, regardless of the specific practice. And the text says, if you practice any of these with that understanding, one of two things happens. Either you achieve the full destruction of defilements right here, right now, asavana kaya, or is not quite, then through what's called attachment to the Dhamma and delight in the Dhamma, which sounds a bit counterintuitive, but it's a specific kind of wholesome attachment, you destroy the 5 lower fetters. And that leads to a spontaneous rebirth in a higher realm, like the pure abodes, where you attain final nirvana and, crucially, never return from that world.
This is where it gets really interesting for me. Not one path, but 11. Each one framed as the single teaching. That's unexpected. So let's break them down. First up were the 4 jhanas, right? The deep meditative states. We often hear about the jhanas as, stages of deep concentration. So the first jhana, you separate from sensual desires, unwholesome stuff, and there's this initial and sustained thought plus joy and pleasure born from seclusion. But Ananda's point here, the twist, is that even attaining that blissful state isn't enough. The practitioner has to look at that very state and see it as conditioned, volitionally produced, impermanent, subject to cessation.
Exactly. And that same critical lens has to be applied all the way up. As you progress through the jhanas, the second, where initial and sustained thought cease. The third, where joy fades into equanimity. The fourth, pure equanimity beyond pleasure and pain. Each of these increasingly refined, incredibly peaceful states still needs to be seen through that lens of impermanence. It's not about the state itself, but the wisdom applied to the state, which, raises a really important question. Why stress their conditioned nature, even when you're talking about these peak meditative achievements? Why not just rest there?
Yeah, it's like, don't get too comfortable, even in bliss. Fascinating. Okay, so after the intense focus of the jhanas, Ananda shifts gears, doesn't he? He moves to the Brahmaviharas, the divine abodes, more about heart cultivation, right? He talks about spreading loving kindness, metta everywhere, all directions. Same with compassion, karudo, sympathetic joy, mudita, and equanimity, upekkha. And the description is so vivid, vast, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility, without ill will, pervading the entire world with these feelings.
And this is what's so striking. These are practices often seen as, wonderful ways to live, maybe ends in themselves. developing kindness, compassion, beautiful. But Ananda integrates them fully into the liberation path. He says when these expansive states are also seen as conditioned, volitionally produced, impermanent, subject to cessation, they also become that single teaching leading to the ultimate goal. It shows the path isn't just about, say, withdrawing into deep concentration. It can also be about profound emotional engagement, as long as you have that wisdom perspective.
Okay, so we've had deep concentration, expansive heart states. And then Ananda goes even further into these really subtle abstract realms, the formless attainments, the arupas. You don't often hear these framed quite so directly as the path, do you? He starts with the sphere of infinite space. You get there by totally transcending perceptions of form, seeing only, infinite space. Then going beyond that, you reach the sphere of infinite consciousness. Space drops away, and there's just awareness itself, infinite. And finally, moving beyond even infinite consciousness, you arrive at the sphere of nothingness, the sense that there is nothing. Super subtle stuff.
Absolutely. And this is where Ananda's teaching is perhaps most profound, because even these states, which are, the absolute pinnacle of meditative attainment for many traditions, even these are still tagged as conditioned and volitionally produced. They arise due to causes and conditions. They aren't the uncaused, unconditioned reality of nirvana. So by understanding their impermanence, their constructed nature, you avoid getting stuck even there. You don't mistake the highest possible experience within conditioned reality for the unconditioned freedom beyond it. It's a crucial distinction.
Wow, okay, so Ananda lays out these 11 distinct possibilities, all unified by that core insight. How did Dashama take all this in? It must have been a lot. Well, the text says his reaction was just overwhelming. He didn't just understand it intellectually. It sounds like he felt it. A real aha moment. And he uses these fantastic analogies to explain it. He says it's like someone looking for just one treasure door. The Pali is amatadvrani, literally doors to the deathless or nirvana, and suddenly realizing there are 11 such doors, all leading to the same treasure. Or, maybe even more clearly, he says it's like having a house with 11 doors. If the house catches fire, you don't panic trying to find the one right door. You can escape through any of them. Doesn't that just completely reframe the idea of searching for the one true path? It's like Ananda just gave him a master key ring instead of a single key.
It really does. And those analogies are so powerful.
Yeah.
They show it's not about being confused by options, but feeling empowered, liberated even by the possibilities. It points towards this incredible inclusivity and adaptability in the Dhamma. There isn't just one narrow, rigid way that fits everyone. Different people, different temperaments can find their door. Any of these 11, practiced with the right understanding, leads home.
And Dashama's response wasn't just intellectual gratitude. His actions were, well, extraordinary. Get this, he organizes monks from both Palaputta and Vesali, 2 different communities. He personally serves them all this amazing food until they're completely satisfied. Then he gives every single monk a pair of robes. That's a huge undertaking, and for Ananda specifically. 3 sets of robes. And this is amazing. He arranges for 500 residences, like little huts or dwellings, to be built for Ananda. 500.
It's a staggering act of patronage. And Dashama himself draws a contrast. He mentions followers of other teachers, saying they only seem interested in getting financial support for their teachers. But his generosity flows from a deep appreciation for the teaching itself, the Dhamma he received from Ananda. It just speaks volumes about how profoundly Ananda's explanation resonated with him, turning understanding into this incredible tangible action.
So wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway from this deep dive into the Aṭṭhakanāgarasuttaṃ? What does it mean for you listening?
For me, it's this realization that the path to liberation isn't some narrow single gate you have to find. It's more like, an 11-door mansion. It's radically inclusive. And the secret sauce isn't the specific door, but that fundamental insight into impermanence that unlocks any of them. Absolutely. It's such a timeless lesson, isn't it? About flexibility, about finding what resonates personally on your own journey. It suggests we shouldn't get too hung up on finding the one single correct method, but instead focus on understanding the underlying principles, that view of conditionality and impermanence that make any genuine method work.
So maybe think about areas in your own life. Where are you searching for that single solution, feeling like there's only one way? Could there be other doors, other valid approaches you haven't considered? Perhaps applying a different lens, like this lens of impermanence, could open up new possibilities for freedom or resolution right where you are.
Yeah, and maybe just consider this. If even these incredibly high states, like infinite space or nothingness, are seen as conditioned and volitionally produced. What happens if you start looking at your everyday experiences that way? Your successes, your failures, your relationships, your attachments. How might seeing them through this lens of conditionality and impermanence shift your perspective, maybe ease some suffering, and change how you move forward? It's a powerful thought to sit with.